What's up, college football fans? Welcome to another QB Spotlight video. And today's game breakdown is going to be the Alabama defense going up against Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. We're going to talk about what Alabama's defense does well, which is a lot, and then we're going to talk about Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers and what he needs to do to put his team in the best position possible to potentially pull off the upset. But before we keep diving into the video and look at some film, I just want to encourage all to consider subscribing to the channel if you look at any quarterback-related content. We spend a lot of time with the SEC, but as long as it's related to the quarterback position, anything's fair game here. So let's jump into Alabama's defense. Alabama's defense is coming up against just a massacre against a Utah State team, right? A Utah State team that was really good last year in the Mountain West, but obviously not on the same level as Alabama. I think Alabama only gave up like 57 yards to the air, 79, 78 yards on the ground, and Utah State scored 0 points. But let's talk about their defense from last year. I think that's a little more kind of applicable to kind of what we're talking about. That gives us a bigger picture. Even though it was last year, we're only in game 2 of the regular season, so there is some takeaways from last year, right? Now, not LSU, excuse me. Yeah, Bama fans don't want to hear me say that. But Alabama's defense actually led the SEC in sacks last year. Yes, they had more than Georgia. They had 46 sacks last year. And so they were a defense that got after the quarterback and caused chaos in the backfield, right? It's one thing to get a sack. It's another thing to cause constant chaos, which can have a big impact on the game for any defense, right? They also only gave up 82 yards on the ground, so they were stout against the rush. And they were, I think, top 2. The only team was Georgia that gave up less. And then against the pass, they were actually kind of middle of the pack in the SEC last year, giving up 223 yards. I think that put them right about 8th. But that number is a bit skewed for the simple fact they were up a lot late in the game, and so they kind of called the dogs off, if you will, and had more kind of prevent off coverage, and so quarterbacks were able to kind of rack up some yards towards the end of the game. But still, something to mention, something to be said, right? So if you're Alabama's defense, the number one thing you're going to try to do with Quinn Ewers is get pressure. They had 0 sacks on Utah State last week, and I'm going to go into a little bit of the reasoning why, because Utah State didn't really give them a chance to have sacks, okay? And we'll talk about that here whenever we talk about Quinn Ewers. But Bama's defense is going to want to get pressure on Quinn Ewers, right? They're going to want to cause chaos in the backfield, and they're going to want to shut down the run. Now, they were really good against the run last year. They played one of the best running backs in all of college football this week, and Texas has several good running backs behind Bijan Robinson. So they're going to want to shut down the run and force Texas to be one-dimensional. They're going to want to try to force Quinn Ewers to beat them, right? So with that being said, let's talk about Quinn Ewers and what he needs to do to have success and to pull off the upset against the best team in college football, or one of the best teams in college football, and only his second career start. I think it comes down to several different keys, but let's not try to be too cliche about it. I think the number one way for Quinn Ewers to potentially pull off this upset is to get passes to Bijan Robinson out of the backfield, right? So you want to get passes to Bijan Robinson out of the backfield. You want to get your other backs involved in the passing game, I think, out of the backfield to potentially open up some run games and get the run game going. I think for Texas to win, Bama's going to want to try and make it one-dimensional, but I think if you're Texas, you come up with creative schemes. Of course, Sark is 1,000 times smarter than me when it comes to probably anything, but especially football. And so he'll, of course, try to find ways to keep the running game going. So I think one way is to have the threat of the backs catching the ball out of the backfield to get the run game going, to keep the run game going, so there's not as much pressure on Quinn. I think another way to do that is have pre-snap motion, pre-snap movement, which of course is a staple in Sark's offense. They do that a lot so they can see what covers the defense is in, or so they can just try to distract the defense, disguise something, and get the defense out of position. Right? There's several reasons why you have pre-snap movement. It's depending on the play and depending on the type of defense that's being covered. There's a different reason why you're having guys move around pre-snap. Another one is get the ball out quick. Okay. But at the same time, just because you're getting the ball out quick doesn't mean it's dink and dunk passes, right? Now, you want to have safe passes, don't get me wrong. But if you look at Utah State, they were, I think, 8 of 22 passing the ball for 57 yards, and they had 0 sacks, right? Their game plan was to get the ball out quick, dink, dunk, dink, dunk. That didn't work out very well for them, right? If you dink, dunk, you better complete it, and it better be more than just a few yards, right? So if you're Quinn Ewers, you want to get the ball out quick, but you want to push the ball downfield. You don't want Alabama's defense to creep up. You don't want Alabama's defense to have that kind of suffocating effect where you can't move, right? So you want to keep them a bit spread out. Keep the DBs, keep the safeties from creeping up to the line of scrimmage. I think one way to do that is having some deep shots, even if you don't complete them. Of course, you want to, but I think you have the weapons at the receiver position to have potentially hit a few deep shots, right? At least have the threat. So if you're Quinn Ewers, if you're the Texas offense, you want to get the ball out quick, but getting the ball out quick doesn't always mean short yards. And the last thing for Quinn Ewers, if the pocket isn't a place where you can throw the ball from comfortably, right? Hopefully it is, but if it's not, and it may not be because of Bama's pass rush, then you want to get him outside the pocket, some rollout stuff, or even some half rolls, right? Just do something to slow down that rush. So whether it's rolls outside the pocket or just some play action half rolls, which may be what they do. It's something that Sark calls a lot, right? Little play action half rolls, something that Mac Jones is really, really good at. Something you even saw Casey Thompson do well at last year. But some half rolls, do something where Quinn Ewers isn't just sitting in the pocket. If he can sit in the pocket and rip it, great. But the chances of being able to do that consistently is probably pretty low, right? So just to recap what we feel like Quinn Ewers needs to do, or the Texas offense in general to have success, get the ball to Bijan and the other talented running backs out of the backfield, get them involved in the passing game to hopefully set up the run game, right? So Bama's defense isn't just crowded at line of scrimmage. And then you want to get the ball out quick, right? But just because the ball is getting out quick doesn't mean it's just short yardage type throws. You want to be able to push the ball downfield. Another way to get the Bama defense out of position, potentially, or at least try, is a bunch of pre-snap motion, pre-snap movement to see what the defense is running, right? Or just to kind of confuse them, or just to have them have something else to think about, whether it's a tight end that have to cover, receiver, whatever it may be. And the last and final thing that Quinn Ewers, I feel like needs to do, or at least the Texas offense needs to set up for him, don't let him sit in the pocket if Bama's getting pressure, right? If for some reason you're able to hold off Bama's pass rush, great, sit in the pocket and rip it. But if not, you need to have a plan to have some rollouts, some half rolls, some play action, whatever it may be, to keep Bama's defense from going full force ahead, right? So anyways, that's our thoughts on Quinn Ewers and what he needs to do against this Bama defense. Again, Bama's is going to want to get pressure, and Bama is going to want to make you one-dimensional. And then if you're Quinn Ewers in Texas offense, you have to have ways to not become one-dimensional, which is exactly what we just talked about just a few minutes ago. So anyways, Texas fans, Bama fans, or just football fans in general, let me hear from you. What do you think the keys are for Quinn Ewers to help Texas pull off this upset? And what do you think Bama's defense is? What are the keys for Bama's defense to keep Quinn Ewers in check if I missed any, right? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts, if you agree, disagree, all that fun stuff. And again, if you are not a subscriber and like this type of content, just consider subscribing and all that fun YouTube jargon. Like the video, comment, share, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time on the next quarterback-related video.